Story 1. When someone tells me to do something that I was already preparing to do on my own, it takes away my opportunity to be helpful and kind. Now I just feel like I am following orders. Story 2. I don't think most people commenting know what unjustifiably means. I believe it's completely justifiable to get angry with people who litter or use speakers when talking on their phones in public. Story 3. If I boil an egg and the shell sticks to the egg white, pulling off chunks of the egg while I try to peel it, it sends me into a state of absolute rage. Story 4. Being stuck with someone else's responsibility is frustrating. When you offload your work onto me or unnecessarily involve me in your drama, it makes me very upset. Story 5. Harry Potter. It seems like everyone loves that franchise these days. However, when the books were being released during my middle school years, my parents used to tell everyone, "Oh yeah, he reads all the books over and over. He loves Harry Potter." In reality, I had never even touched a Harry Potter book at that time and didn't know anything about it except its name. Everyone in my family insisted I was such a huge Harry Potter fan, and it was annoying and strange. Ever since, I have been averse to it, and I even start to feel angry when I see or hear something about Harry Potter. Story 6. I went to the emergency room when I was having a gallbladder attack. There were at least 4 elderly people there watching TikTok videos at full volume. I was writhing in pain, trying to disassociate, and all I could hear was the same 6-second clip of music from the videos, which they watched at least 10 times. If there is a hell, that's definitely what it is like. I also cannot stand people who audibly sigh. I feel like they're looking for some sort of validation, and it irritates me. Story 7. Some things that anger me while driving are justifiable, but in many cases, they are not. Story 8. People walk slowly in the middle of the aisle at the grocery store or leave their cart there so you can't pass. Story 9. With a colleague who constantly seeks to demonstrate their responsibility while implying that the rest of the team is wasting time and the company's money. Story 10. People lacking manners. I don't know when certain individuals think the words "excuse me" should be used, but it is not often enough. Story 11. People who temporarily park in handicapped parking spaces to quickly run inside. Story 12. The most recent situation involved children being themselves in public while parents did not attempt to manage their behavior. However, I also recall my own childhood and understand that children are not being malicious or intending to cause harm. I fully recognize that my annoyance is unjustifiable, and I am aware that I am being unreasonable. Story 13. If I drop something unintentionally, my clumsiness creates a moment of frustration in my mind, and I want to eliminate everything between dropping the object and picking it back up. Story 14. All these individuals who want to boycott Google and Amazon all of a sudden, but didn't do it when I was having problems with them, frustrate me. I almost feel inclined to give the large corporations money out of sheer spite. Story 15. When I'm on my lunch break at work with my AirPods in and watching a video, someone starts talking to me. Story 16. My niece has a habit of holding her 3-year-old son by one arm when he is crying. She is usually trying to make him comply with some demand he is resisting. It does not seem to hurt him. It is not rough enough to be considered abusive, but I dislike seeing it. Story 17. It's a new slang that seems centered around being so lazy you can't say a full word. Delulu, Riz, and similar terms are examples of this trend. Recently, people are posting on social media asking, "Chat, am I cooked?" or similar phrases. "We're not watching your live stream. Stop it." Story 18. Couples arguing over the toilet seat is quite frustrating. Both partners should take responsibility for ensuring the toilet is set up the way they prefer before using it. It's not difficult. This is separate from the request to have the lid closed. There are valid reasons for wanting that, even though I believe most people don't mind. Story 19. Trying to find information on a game made in the last 10 years is challenging. Many individuals rush to be the first to publish content on their websites, and few take the time to verify the accuracy of the information. You have to sift through an overwhelming amount of irrelevant content to find even a small amount of useful information. This does not include the lengthy clickbait videos that take a significant amount of time to get to the main point. Story 20. People bring their dogs into the grocery store. I see dogs sticking their noses in the deli, produce, and bakery cases. I also see untrained dogs get anxious when they encounter other dogs. It's reminiscent of living in Mississippi, even after moving away. Story 21. At my job, we have a long-handled dustpan and brush that hang on a hook. People will hang the brush on the hook, causing the pan to either fall off the brush or the clip holding them together to slide down the brush, causing the pan to rest on the floor. Story 22. Not unjustifiable to me but others. When a couple argues in public and one is being a menace and intimidating, I will get involved. The Bible says to turn the other cheek. I'm not in it. I will intervene if you do not leave that intimidated person alone. Story 23. At the gas station, the cashier assists another customer who spends 30 minutes choosing scratch tickets. Story 24. People who lack spatial awareness in public can be quite frustrating. I find it difficult to remain calm when individuals stand unreasonably close to me in open spaces or block the middle of an aisle or walkway to have a conversation. Recently, two individuals were standing in a relatively narrow passage, both with carts, forcing others to squeeze past them. It would be appreciated if they could move. Story 25. When people from other departments contact me on Teams instead of sending me an email and waiting their turn, I have many people ahead of them. They do not get to jump the line unless it is an actual emergency, which it never is. Story 26. Customers often ask if my cash register is open. I understand their desire for confirmation, but it seems to me that a little observation and context should provide the answer. If my light is on and I am standing attentively, waiting for customers to notice me, why would I be closed? If I were closed, neither of those conditions would be true. While this may come across as elitist thinking, I believe that if I am waiting for you and my light is on, it should be common sense that I am open. Story 27. I regularly have to remind myself out loud that it's not that serious when I start to get frustrated over inanimate objects not cooperating with me, such as falling over, getting stuck, or my makeup not going on correctly. Story 28. Hypocrites. It is blindingly obvious, and I wonder if they are that unaware or think the rest of us are. Story 29. When someone says, "My favorite Superman is Christopher Reeve," it's important to get his name right. Story 30. Bad driving, especially among those who drive slowly in the fast lane and those who do not use turn signals, is a concern. Story 31. All the people driving on my road, especially when I am walking my dogs, speed past as if speed limits do not exist. Story 32. When I'm on a plane and the person in front of me is moving while I'm trying to lay my head on the back of the seat, it frustrates me. I know it's not their fault, but I can't help feeling annoyed. Story 33. When individuals who have lost a significant amount of weight and got in shape make their entire personalities revolve around their weight loss and fitness journey, it can become excessive. You are not a fitness expert simply because you visited a gym and achieved your fitness goals. Every social media photo you share does not need to be the same pose in front of the same gym mirror multiple times a day. Story 34. People who put their chewed gum anywhere but the trash know who they are and their actions are unacceptable. Story 35. Finding a fun-looking Pokemon ROM hack or Pokemon fan game only to discover that one of the features is increased difficulty immediately diminishes my interest in the game. Story 36. I go full Gordon Ramsay on Tex-Mex food that is mediocre. Pick a lane. If you're going to half-heartedly make this burrito with dry chicken, either smother it with a sauce, spices, and lard that create delicious food, or get out of the kitchen. Story 37. Hate is one thing. Not understanding something is another. Ignorance differs from dislike, but hate is a strong emotion. Some individuals direct hate toward others who have done nothing to deserve it. Story 38. I dislike feeling impatient while driving, especially with those who believe it is necessary to stop at roundabouts. Story 39. People who get up to go to the restroom at the cinema and stand in front of the screen should go before watching the movie. Story 40. When seeking fantasy book recommendations, it often seems to focus on the same 3 male authors or Discworld. While I appreciate that you enjoyed the Tiffany Aching novels, Have you explored works by authors outside of Terry Pratchett, J.R.R. Tolkien, or George R.R. Martin? It appears that the only female author often mentioned is Ursula Le Guin, with little discussion of others. I urge people to consider fantasy literature beyond Discworld, A Song of Ice and Fire, or Tolkien's works, as there are many talented authors writing exceptional fantasy who deserve more recognition. Story 41. Christian people who believe that Trump is the chosen one are single-issue voters focused on abortion. They do not recognize their own hypocrisy. Story 42. I hit my head while making a lower bunk bed by bumping into the top one. I'm absolutely furious for about 10 seconds, even though it's entirely my fault. Story 43. Talking to proudly ignorant people. Smartphones have been widespread since 2008, allowing us to research any subject instantly. You can fact-check anything in moments. However, some people still choose not to do this, which frustrates me. I understand they are free to hold their opinions, but I believe having an opinion does not give a free pass to hold incorrect ones. Story 44. The sound of infants crying and children shrieking can be overwhelming. I remember being on a date when she asked if I had ever wanted kids, and coincidentally, a baby started crying in the background. I replied, no, absolutely no kids. I live in the city and don't mind the sounds of sirens or planes and trains rumbling by, but babies crying really frustrates me. Story 45. While near misses on the road are alarming, I find myself far more frustrated in the long term when people actively inhibit others' right of way. It is also frustrating when they give up their own right of way for no reason. When I properly yield to a pedestrian and they become frustrated and wave me on, I become livid. I apologize, but I do not want to be too close to anyone. Story 46. Whenever someone is in the kitchen with me or makes suggestions to add to the meal I am preparing, it can be distracting. Story 47. Women who shave their heads as a style choice should not be judged. It is entirely their right to make that decision. I can understand if someone chooses to shave their head due to thinning hair, cancer, or alopecia. The trend of going completely bald is valid, and any negative reaction to it is unjustified. Story 48. The people who react negatively to any small change for a social media website, especially if that change does not affect their usage of the website. Story 49. I work in retail, and when a person comes in with their non-service dog, I feel frustrated. I make an effort to avoid eye contact with the dog, and I never comment to the owner about the pet. Story 50. I don't know if I have ever felt that way, but sometimes I notice people looking at me in public. I think it might be a personal issue. Story 51. When I politely tell someone no, but they ignore it and continue to impose their will on me anyway. Story 52. Anyone parking in front of my house. I am well aware it is a public road, but I do not care. It sends me into a rage. Story 53. Our species wastes money on killing each other instead of gathering the resources floating around our solar system and properly venturing out into space. Story 54. Crinkly bags, like chip bags. Why must chip bags crinkle? It's even worse because I know the anger is completely unjustified. So I must seethe in silence while the offending chip bag crinkler obliviously enjoys their snack. Story 55. Princess goldfish crackers are unnecessarily gendered products in general, but especially the goldfish crackers for some reason. Story 56. You finally get into a groove doing a mental task like composing a long email or completing your taxes, and it is right at that moment that you need to use the restroom, which brings you out of the zone. Story 57. I dislike when you try to say something to someone, and you say it perfectly clearly, yet the person responds with "what" multiple times. It literally makes my jaw clench. Story 58. Bystanders who remain silent during uncomfortable situations, whether in person or over an ongoing incident, can contribute to the problem. Similarly, being with someone who does not defend you, such as when someone says something hurtful or misunderstands you, can be frustrating. It is also troubling when there is gossip about you that you are unaware of. I have realized throughout my life that I am more angered by bystanders than by the actual wrongdoers. Story 59. Shoplifters are blaming me for getting arrested. I didn't make them shoplift or give them active warrants. All I did was call the police. How is it my fault that they are going to jail? Story 60. When I am in the checkout line and the person in front is talking for a long time, I always feel bad for feeling this way because it usually isn't the person's fault. Story 61. I don't know, but it's a strange quirk. Whenever someone does something repeatedly, like a baby crying, someone telling the same unfunny joke repeatedly, someone tapping an object, or flies or bugs buzzing against a light fixture or a wall. Story 62. People who park their carts in the middle of a shopping aisle should move them to the left or right. It doesn't need to be in the middle of the aisle. Story 63. When my fingernails get too long, it's often because I've been too lazy to cut them. When they reach that length, they click on everything and make tasks with my hands more difficult. Sometimes I become so frustrated that I don't even feel like cutting my nails. I can't quite explain it. Another issue I have is getting my sleeves wet when I wash my hands. Any wet clothing makes me unreasonably uncomfortable and angry. I can't help but notice the cold spot against my skin, and it seems to take forever to dry. Story 64. The music of Korn has a unique influence. I've attended parties where their songs were playing, and I wondered why I felt so irritated. Once the album finished, I felt much better. Story 65. I have a compulsion towards anger when I see how the world hates and rejects the truth. If I were not loyal to the King and a servant of Jesus, I would not leave anger to God. The wrath of God would come through me. I live or die for Jesus. The truth will set you free. Jesus said it. Blessings from the father of a murdered son. Father, bless your children. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.